Hey, John.
Angie.
Do you have a certification in coaching?
Yes, here it is. Take a look.
John, it says here you awarded this to yourself.
That's right, I did.
So, what value does that have then?
About as much value as all my other coaching certificates. Do you want me to make one for you?
Oh, gosh, no, John. Well, I don't know, maybe. Let's start the show.
Welcome to the Coaching Clinic with John and Angie, the show for professional coaches that explores the ins and outs of coaching, from working with clients through to running and marketing your coaching business.
If you're a professional coach who's committed to your own personal and professional growth, cares about making a difference, and wants to have a successful coaching business, you're in the right place.
My name's John Ball.
And I'm Angela Bezignano.
Between us, we have over 50 years of coaching experience and best practices to share with you. From getting started to scaling up your business.
We know what works and what doesn't, as well as what it really takes to have a successful and thriving coaching business.
With new episodes every Wednesday.
Make sure you're subscribed to get them fresh. So, what we're going to be talking about today, which I think is a question that comes up for a lot of coaches. I actually just ran into an old friend who was like, I'm in Florida. I'm getting this great coaching certification. And she's all like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed about it. So we're going to talk about the benefits, if there are any, and maybe if there's a downside or two, which I don't know if I've seen any of those. But what are your thoughts about it, John?
Gosh, I feel like there is a mixed bag when it comes to coaching certifications. Some are good, some are not. And I don't even feel that they're completely necessary, although I feel that the industry is moving in that way. And I know we've mentioned this before on the show. There's good and bad to that probably any industry, especially one as big as coaching, should have some level of regulation and standards to it. But it's interesting that the bodies that have been setting themselves up in that position have maybe different opinions on coaching to other organizations. So yeah, it's a very mixed bag and it's hard to navigate through. But I do generally think coaching certifications are worth the time for people who are new to coaching and don't naturally have coaching knowledge or experience. So yeah, I valued my coaching certification when I did it.
I have so many mixed feelings about it because, and again, I've been around for a minute. And when I first started getting my certifications, the intention was that I wanted to feel validated, right? So I wanted people to know, I wanted the public to say, they have this certification or she has this certification, therefore she must be, and then just fill in the blank. So I think that as the industry is growing exponentially, I mean, everybody who's like, I want to quit my job says, I want to become a coach. Nobody's saying they want to quit their job and become a doctor or a neurosurgeon. I'm just saying. And I don't mean that to downplay what we do, but I think that some people maybe take on the idea that they can just do it and it's easy, and it's not. We know that, right? It's not easy, but there's this idea of let me become valid in this space. And so as the industry is growing, so are the companies that are promoting, get this certification, get that certification. So I do have several certifications and they're under big names, right? I specifically, one or two of them I got because I was like, ooh, everybody knows that name. If I say I'm certified under this person, that's going to make me even more attractive to people, public. But in recent years, I've intentionally gotten a couple of certifications, and that was for the purpose of being able to legally utilize their systems.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. My first coaching certification was a correspondence course. And before there were online courses, there were correspondence courses.
Wow.
That's how long
feeling
ago
old
it was.
right now.
And so when the course came through in the post, there was what they called the thud factor. The things used to have like the folders, and it would like drop on the floor, you get a great big thud. So a bunch of folders, bunch of DVDs. It wasn't that odd that we wasn't leaving
Yeah.
DVDs. At least it was DVDs. So we're not talking ancient history, although, I'm sure there are young people today, what's a DVD? But yeah,
Oh, we're
it was,
dating ourselves here, John.
I know, it was a long time ago, but it was really valuable to work through that stuff and to have a bit of accountability for doing it as well. And that led me
Yes.
into some other certifications. However, the organization I got the certification through no longer exists. I think the guy sold his
There-
business years ago and sold it on to someone else. And the certification itself has no recognition
Yeah.
other than it's a certification from this company. So when you
Yeah.
say, well, what value is there? Well, there was value to me personally, and I've
Like,
got a lovely
man.
certificate to show that I became not just a coach with them, but a master coach. But it doesn't mean anything really in professional terms. It's just like a nice thing I can stick on the wall and show people if they're interested. But I'm glad they did it. I found the structure helpful and for helping me to get into a bit more clarity about what
Huh.
to do in a coaching session.
Listen, I definitely think that there is, depending on what it is, because I've seen some pretty cheesy ones out there. So when
Right.
I do a review of something, I'm like, before I sign up or before I do this, there are some really cheesy. I'm like, who is getting paid $999 for this? I'm in
Right.
the wrong business, obviously. But I think that the best use of a certification, mm, I come to this from two places, but is to enhance, you said this, you touched on it, is to enhance yourself and your knowledge base as a coach so that you can better serve. Now,
Yeah.
on the flip side, though, and I'm sure that you've experienced this, there are companies like, so if somebody decides they do want to become a coach and maybe they're not looking to be entrepreneurs and they're going to go work for a coaching company, like in one of our sessions, we talked about, you mentioned Better Up, and then there's all these places. They require, some of these places, these companies require you to have some level of certification
Yep.
with the ICF, the International Coach Federation. And they have 3 levels of coaching. And do you have any of that? Mine is pending. My PCC, my professional coaching certification, is actually pending. So there's an application sitting there. However, I'm qualified for the master coaching certification based on years of
Yeah.
experience, but they don't
Yeah.
stand that out.
There is a similar body in Europe called the EMCC,
Okay.
which is also recognized by companies like Better Up. And I myself am partway through application for that. The bit that is taking a while is all of the coaching hours.
Yeah.
Because the coaching that we spend most of our time doing with the Speaker Lab is not suitable
Yeah.
for EMCC or ICF,
Yep.
and not just that, with propriety issues and stuff like that. There would be problems trying to using those sessions for hours and recording them and things like
Sure.
that for external use. So yeah, that's a challenge for me at the moment, is like getting the additional coaching hours in
Yeah.
to be able to do that and put it through. And there's also that time it's like, well, I can do it. I'm not 100% convinced it's worthwhile. That's the
Right.
other
Well, at
side of
this
it as well.
stage, though, because you've been coaching for a while, and I get that. When you reach a certain space, when you've been doing this for a minute, and this is for some of the new people that might be listening, you start to really recognize what is necessary and what isn't. And for me, having that certification pending, I have over 10, I don't know, I think I have 18,000 hours of coaching that I can prove. That's a lot of coaching.
Yeah.
But there are some other requirements. And I'm saying to myself, oh, do I really want to do that? Because nothing, so here's the truth though. And I think this is what you're alluding to. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. Nowhere on my bio do I say, I've got over 18,000 coaching hours. I got this point go. It doesn't matter. It's not for me. It doesn't matter. But like I did say, there are certifications that I have that are super specific that I utilize in my coaching practice. Those are
Please.
required. There's CE for them. There's updates that I need to do annually or biannually. And I'm happy to continue. As long as I'm using those frameworks, I will continue to do the CE and do all of that. But let me ask you this. If you are a coach just starting out,
Then
you were just starting out today, would you go and run and get certifications of any kind? And if you did, what would they be? You're in the hot seat.
The answer is yes. I would. And here's why. As I mentioned, like the coaching certification I did originally was a home study correspondence
Mhm.
course, which was fine. And there was telephone group calls back when we used to have them. Before the days of online webinars, we had telephone
Yeah.
seminars. What did we even call this? You would phone in for those sort of group calls and stuff.
Mhm.
And that was all good. Um, but there was no industry regulation. Anyone could call themselves a coach trainer. Anyone could call themselves a coach.
Mhm.
And I like that now there is a sort of level to which you're expected to meet. If you can turn up to, this is a problem I have with some programs. If you can turn up to a program and complete it in 5 days and get the certification, mostly because you paid for it, what value does that have? Even if it gives
Yeah.
you entry or access to some things, what value does that really have for you
Mhm.
professionally? And there's a bunch of that. I say like my NLP trainers and stuff like that. Yeah, there was some value to me personally,
Yeah.
but all these people getting trained up as NLP therapists and just being
Yeah.
set loose on the world,
Have you
often
met
with
some of those people? Because I'm a little scared. I've met a handful that I'm like, oh boy, what does
yes,
that mean?
I'm going to fix you now,
Yeah.
which is how a lot of people went out there rather than for me and for a bunch of others who I knew. So this is just some additional tools to add into our coaching tool belt for what we're already doing rather than a whole modality that I'm going to set up my business around. And even then, I've said before, it would be maybe interesting to have an episode on these sorts of topics at some point, but I'm not sure how valuable something like NLP was in general to spend not just all the time I spent on it, but the amount of money that I invested into learning it when probably some of the essentials could have been learned from books and practice and experience and
Mhm.
whatever else. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of people out there selling very expensive courses in these kinds of things and making a lot of money off it. And some of them do very well with it. I'm not saying I didn't get any value from it. I just think there are things I could have done for a better return on my investment.
Well, listen, I think that's with anything that you do. If you go into a new industry blindly, I would say that anybody who is starting out, first of all, a podcast like ours says it the way it is, and that's always great information, not just because we're great, right? But because it's really good information and it's coming from this organic place of, hey, we've been there, we've done that. Oh, and we're still doing it. And I think the beauty of what we've done is that we've been around long enough that we've seen the change and the transformation in the industry. And now we're
Yeah,
both able to sit here and say, okay, if I were to go back to the beginning at this point, I would say the same. There's two or three of the certifications that I have that I would do. And here's the thing, I believe that there is a beauty in a governing body, if you will, because the thing about coaching is that it can be like the wild, wild west. Right? It can be like, oh, I'm a coach now. I have business cards that say it. I have a website that says it. And that's great. I think that some of what people need to consider is when they want to become a coach or they are a coach and they're looking at themselves and saying, well, what do I stand by? And how do I decide how I'm showing up ethically? I think ethics can be really important. And there's no HOA above us, right? There's no governing body that says you have to behave this way. There's ethical, right? There's ethical things that come into play. I think it can create a great amount of awareness for people coming in and not knowing what they don't know, right? What does it
yeah,
really look like? Because honestly, so many of my own clients have turned to coaching. I'm not endorsing it, right? But
yes,
maybe that got out of their marriages or maybe they got out of their jobs and they've turned to coaching and they've asked me, like, Angie, what do I do? And I'm like, who do you want to be? What kind of coaching do you want to focus on? Which we talked about in our niching episode. And then
yes,
maybe the decision can come from that space, right? So if you wanted to, you know, for example, be an executive coach, you have to know that that client is going to be looking for you to be valid, for sure. They're going to want to know why you are the person. So you have to really think in advance of who you want to talk to
yeah.
and what might be of value for you being able to coach them and what they might be needing from you.
Yeah. Whereas if you want to become a spiritual coach, you don't need any
Don't come to
certification.
Angie.
Don't come to me either, I'm afraid. And not saying there's not value in that. Obviously, there are people who want those services. It's not right for you and I. But what value would coaching certification be in that kind of
Right.
situation when
Sure.
spirituality is such a kind of individualistic thing? So yeah, I would say, yeah, in those sorts of professional situations, we talked early on about how long it took to feel validated and build up your belief in yourself as a coach. And I think that's one of the things that these newer certifications, because you have to put in the hours, because you have to be evaluated by other coaches and certified, this is not a situation of you pays your money, you get your certificate, because many people don't. Many people have to resit the final exams for these certifications
Correct.
and keep trying to get it. So they don't just certify anyone. I am a big fan of that. So
Yes.
so once you've got that level of certification, yeah, there's some level of validation. There's a good chance no client is ever going to ask to see your certificates. I've never had that situation before in the
Good
past.
point, though. No, neither have I. I've definitely had people ask, though, hey, later on, once they kind of get to know me, hey, what got you into coaching? How did you? So they're more curious about that. I think I've had maybe one or two. I can think of one off the top of my head right now who, while I was working under a big name, not going to be mentioned, and I was one of their coaches and I was a trainer for them as well. I trained other coaches for them and I was still taking on clients. And one of the prospects they were very, very, because they had had coaching before, they weren't really happy. And even though the company was endorsing me and saying, hey, you should go work with Angie, they were like, who's this Angie? Well, why should I? And they wanted my bio. They wanted a video. I had to make a video of myself.
Wow.
But that was honestly one out of hundreds, thousands, one out
Yeah.
of, So,
There's a level of credibility, though, to being able to put ICF certified coach or
yeah.
EMCC certified coach or all equivalents on your profile, which I think today probably does at least give people some level of assurance. Now that there is, at least there are several reasonably well recognized bodies of governance in the coaching
Sure.
industry, that I would say it's worth having that. But certainly when we were starting out, that didn't exist. There were a whole bunch of organizations who wanted to be that and were trying to be that. So I
Right.
guess the sort of battles have been waged and won and lost, but that's how it is now. So yeah, if I was starting out now, I would probably want that because I think it gives
Yeah.
you a good grounding and validation and shows you've been through
Sure.
some stuff. And you're going to get coaching experience because you have to submit coaching hours and be evaluated on those. I think it's a lot of good stuff for
Yeah,
coaching
no, I
certification.
agree. I agree. Like I said, I think maybe one or two of the original ones that I got I don't even remember the names of them at this point. That's how
Mm.
long ago I got them. The ICF is pending, which is great because I think that and the one in Europe are probably the biggest, most well known, right? But if I go get a certification under a big name, there's recognition and association prowess with that, right? There's that. But that's pay to play. All I have to do is pay, show up, and that's it. I am certified. One of my certifications, though, is in the DISC. Behavioral. I love that assessment. I know that. Don't come at me, people, because I know there's others now, and everybody's DISC is old. No, they've actually revamped it, and I recertified because I like it, I believe it, and I use it. But that's not something that somebody's going to look at and say, "Ooh." Some people might look at it and go, "What the heck is that?" But I think when you think about ICF or others, and that there is a process that you mentioned earlier, it definitely makes people feel like, oh, okay. Oh, you're a surgeon. You're about to operate on my brain and you didn't get your MD from, I don't know, like a Cracker Jack box. Do you have those in Europe?
Um, I'm guessing you can probably guess by the blank look on my face that we don't.
I
No,
know.
I don't know what I don't know.
If you all could see his face, he's looking at me like the deer in the headlights. Like, what?
No, I have no idea what that is. But it was something you get a free gift with, yeah.
It is. It's like
Okay.
it could be a little tattoo or something. But anyway, it would be at the
Oh,
bottom of your
cool.
little, we'd have to talk about that later. But anyway, For those of you listening in the United States, you know what a Cracker Jack box is. But anyway, but the point is that there's validation behind that. And I
It's
think
like a
that's
Kinder
really what it
Surprise,
is.
right?
What?
You have
Yes, you get a prize.
we let's use a common example: Kinder eggs, where you get a little surprise inside, like a coaching certificate.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Here, just sign this. This is your certification. No, I did listen, all joking aside, I definitely think that there are some more and listen, when you want to work for some companies, there's a reason why. If you decide you don't want to be an entrepreneur, or maybe you're going to be a part-time entrepreneur and you're going to work for a company, if you look at what they require, one of the requirements is probably going to be some level of an ICF certification here. And it's usually professional certification or better. So there's
Yeah.
the 3 levels, and that's the mid-level. So there's a reason why they want to know that you at least know the baseline of what coaching is supposed to look like and what your behavior should be. This is not, you're not friends, you're not lovers, you're not, like this is a professional relationship.
Which
So
is good. Here's where I think there may be a danger with some of these things is that you get to the end of a certification, you feel validated and it's all good and you're ready to go out and move professionally as a coach and feel confident in that, which is great.
yeah,
What's maybe not so great is you feel that you know coaching. I feel you
yeah,
really don't, because it's an ongoing process. And there's probably going to be certifications that you'll want to get that have no professional value, but will have value to you and
yeah,
will actually help you grow in your coaching. So in that sense, they will have professional value, but in terms of recognition, probably not.
yeah,
So you do have to look at things through those standards, which is why I said probably would look at official certification first of all as a coach getting started now,
yep,
and some of the other growth, like the learning development should be ongoing. But how do you then discern between the courses that are making some amazing promises and offering you all these good things that don't really deliver and those that actually do? I think that's where I struggled in my journey of there weren't so many ways to check out a lot of the places where I
yeah.
was being sold or offered opportunity in courses as there are now. And so now you can do your homework, but most people still don't.
Absolutely. Do the research, check the reviews, because people are so, especially if we feel like we got duped, if we feel like we were taken advantage of in some way, people are going to post about that. You can do the research on what the company says they offer on their incredible website, but if you research their reviews, why do we check reviews on a couch, but we don't check reviews on somebody who we want to pay money to make us better at what we do?
Yeah.
Um, so I definitely agree with that 1000%. It doesn't mean that you're going to come out of it with maybe everything that you expected, but also doing nothing is not necessarily the answer either, because you are going to be flying blind into, for newer people, newer coaches, into the space of, well, what makes you want to be a coach? Well, somebody told me that I'm really good at giving advice. Really? Well, I think you need some training there, because maybe you are. Maybe you're great. Maybe I'm a great coach. But yeah.
Here's a fun example that was from, I think, either last week or the week before, that I saw somebody advertising or promoting themselves as a neuroscience-based coach, a certified neuroscience coach. And I thought, that has to be the most bogus bullshit thing I've ever heard of. So I thought, I need to look into this. And so I started doing some checking up on it. And actually, it's pretty authentic. And it is actually people from a neuroscience background who are helping people to understand how neuroscience works in coaching and to apply knowledge in neuroscience into the coaching world for more therapeutic coaching than anything else.
Yeah.
God looked at it and said, that wouldn't be for me. But it was interesting to see,
Yeah.
it was worth taking a look and saying, that sounds really bullshit. But actually, there was seems like there's some really good value in it. And if I was in my earlier days of coaching where I was still sort of thinking, where do I want to specialize into? That could well be a path that I would go. That's not to say there aren't a ton of other stuff out there there's a ton of stuff out there that is bullshit.
Absolutely.
But,
no, there definitely is, which is why we're talking about this today. Because I think we've seen that a lot along the way.
Would you get your coaching certification from Jay Shetty, for example?
Would I get one from Jay Shetty? I love Jay Shetty. Jay, what's
Mm,
up?
Not a
um,
fan myself, but
but I'm saying, like, I think it depends on what that looks like. Honestly, again, I have a certification from another big name, and it was probably like the second or third one that I got because I was like, ooh, I had experienced that their one of their weekend retreats, and I was really taken by it. So I think I did it more out of curiosity and then was like, oh, and by the way, I have this. Now I don't think it really anybody who knows anything about coaching is going to look at that and go, oh, she paid to play. Did I get a lot out of it? I did, but I could tell you, I can tell you honest and true. I don't know if any of that has stuck with me. I don't think there's anything that I use from that because it really wasn't meant to be that. It was like, here's my name and you're going to pay to use that. And that's okay.
mm.
You know what? Honor that. It was part of my learning experience. That was like 20 something years ago. So,
I
I,
would definitely say take a look. I'm not saying there's no value to a course like even from someone like Jay Shetty. I wouldn't be a fan. I probably wouldn't go that way. But earlier on in my coaching days, I would have. I was probably a bit less skeptical and quite naive, really. And so I wouldn't have checked stuff out as thoroughly as I would now. Do check stuff out and make sure it's right for you. Even sometimes I say this was one reason why I say go for the official certification first. It's going to make a bigger difference to you if you're getting started. But if you got that and you just want to keep your learning going, it doesn't really matter. Those certifications are for you more than for your clients at this point to help you grow.
agreed.
But if you feel that you're going to get what you need from those, then absolutely go for it. And if you don't, then take it up with the companies and don't just accept that you're receiving something less than what maybe has been promised to you. Because certainly there's a lot of that out there as well. But I feel like there are less scammy coaching stuff out there now, like in terms of these sorts of sales. I could be wrong.
Well, I just think that there's more, like we said, there's more ability to research it. There's more ability to come back and maybe, getting a bad review is bad. Again, you could get one bad review. It doesn't mean that everything about it is bad, but I think your point is extremely important. If you're going to get one that's overarching, get one that is really more recognized, well-known, reputation, because you're going to get from that. And the recognition of the public is going to be in place there for you as well. And then anything you do beyond that, kind of what I said earlier, it really should be like, why do I need this? Ask yourself, why do I want this? What's the benefit for myself? What's the benefit for future clients? And if you can answer that and say, it's going to help me do X, Y, or Z, then do it. But
Yeah,
something more
it's worth
formal,
looking at.
I agree, is a great place to start.
What's going to help you get where you want to get.
Yeah.
And so if you are heading down a path where you may be still figuring out niche and still getting stuff off the ground, then probably a coaching certification like we've talked about would be great for you. If you're ready to niche or you pretty much know what you're doing and you're not really looking to work with a coaching company or inside a larger corporation,
Yeah.
then you may not need that stuff. So look at what you do need to be able to get the results and go on the journey that you want to go on as a coach. And so that's probably the main stuff you need to be considering here when it comes to certifications, because ultimately they're just bits of paper that go on the wall otherwise.
I agree. 10,000%. This was fun.
It's a valuable conversation. And I feel like yourself, I feel happy with my journey. Some stuff that I got more value from than others. Some stuff I spent a lot more money on than perhaps I wish I had looking back. However, I learned my lessons and come out relatively unscathed.
Agreed.
Yeah, things are better now. We'd love to hear from you. What are your thoughts on coaching certifications? What questions do you have that maybe we didn't get around to in this particular episode? And what questions do you have for the future? We're going to be getting into what happens inside coaching sessions as well as we go on this journey together. So we hope you'll come back and join us for that. But if
You don't want to
get
miss
in
those.
touch with
Those
us,
are definitely juicy.
you don't want to miss those. But do leave us a message. You can leave us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/the Coaching Clinic podcast. That's all one word. You'll find the link for that in the show notes. Do leave us a voicemail and we might just feature you on the show. Angie, that's pretty much it for us this week. So shall we come back and do it again next time?
I definitely think we should. You be well.
Let's see you then. Bye.
Bye.